The script was followed between 3 games here, and if this was a best of 3, this would have been exactly it. But this is more like a TV movie special. It has to be 3 wins. It's only 2 for T1 as they were able to get the job done with the cheeky little Kennen pick and some early game heroics by Owner, but we're not done yet. They've still got one more game to go, Degon alongside Chronicler and Wolf, and this means that D+ still have an opportunity here to make the comeback.
I think this is going to be such an insane test for D+'s resilience, right? In that last game, they, while behind, continued to double down on plays on the top side, kept forcing fights with Beryl that didn't go well, and it felt like they just were ready to move to the next game. There's a way you could kind of cope and look at it like, ready to move on, this game is not playable, it's not winnable. But you really need to keep your mental straight coming into this next game because that last game was a stop. Everything you tried failed, and at the very end, they just sent it, and it didn't work.
I think it's also a game where a lot kind of fell apart for DK what had been going well. I think Beryl had a really rough game. We saw Shield really struggle, and I think that he's been struggling to not get focused in side lane, as has Doran in this series. But the difference in this one was there was no counterplay, and the attempted counterplays were answered very, very well. So definitely, I think T1 showcasing the continued form of Owner in particular. Yeah, DK. Not looking so hot on that one, but it's fine. They'll bounce back, and instead they'll bring us to game 5, surely.
So there were a lot of plays by Owner in the top side of the map to set up Doran, right? Or to protect him, right? There was this one, and then up here, looking for the dive onto the Kennen, Doran actually strikes first, sets up an insane slicing Maelstrom, and I don't think they expect the Pantheon to be on top side here, and this dive completely missed, but it's not the last one either.
And this, to me, is the play that kind of turns the game firmly in T1's favor, because I think before this they were doing well, but here so much free gold is given over. There's nothing on the cross map that is gotten, and if that dive doesn't have Owner there, that just works. And obviously diving Kennen is always risky, but it's a crucial mismanagement and misreading of where Owner is on the map. And this is when we kind of knew the game was...
This was when I was saying they kind of just sent it. Like, you know, they continue to try to make these plays. Like, this is a Kai'Sa dive into a level 10 Kennen who had turret. If anyone is there, it's a disaster. If no one is there, it probably still doesn't work out that well.
I think they were just trying to push as hard as they can, but even that, like, you need to still respect the Kennen's damage, and then this is their attempt at the cross map. But because Lucid and She were so far behind, and Faker has gone for a tanky build, Owner shows up again in perfect timing, and this is why the Pantheon has been so high prior. We hadn't seen it in a lot of games, but in this one, it really showcased again. If you do have a tempo lead, any cross-map play will just get blown up. And I think it was an exceptional game.
And if you have the game sense that Owner has, and your team is ahead, you know where D+ is looking. You know the angles they're trying to push. This is like quintessential, Faker is caught, but Jungler shows up, right? And you play through those pressure points incredibly well. You turn the attempts for D+ into mistakes, into failures, into furthering your own lead.
Yeah, but the game wasn't done yet. Victor was on D+'s side, so the scaling could have came through, but the door gets shut here at Baron at 25 minutes.
It's pretty telling. DK also knows how bad the game state is that they full send it here, because the angle onto Guma just isn't great, and Beryl just sends it solo onto a tank Orianna, so he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. She wasn't even here in the fight, but even if he would have, I think at this point they just run out of damage. The reason why we have this highlight is because the game was just kind of done.
Yeah, Owner is so incredibly huge. He is so tanky. He also has his upgraded Merc Treads from Feats of Strength. Like, you just cannot hurt him. He is not afraid of any of the damage coming through from the Victor that was kind of scaling. Showmaker spent some time in the side lane, was trying to get online, but ultimately the game was just so cooked by that point that the fight was a wash.
Yeah, and it goes back to me for that, the first pick, right? We were thinking, okay, maybe Orianna just will be the first pick. They decided to go with the Wukong, and it was a nice little response there. Orianna in the side, and the Pantheon, a really good answer here in this specific draft. As we take a look at the Fearless bans, because D+ Kia has selected red side. We've seen this a lot after 3 games. In the 4th game, usually the team with side select goes to red side. They really like having the counter picks in the end of the draft.
Yeah, we're really getting towards like the Lee and Zed type junglers here when it comes to AD. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen there. Qiyana was banned last game. Maybe they'll continue doing so. For DK, though, I want to look back to the game number 1. I think that we need to see both Lucid and Beryl have a good early game, because that's what made that game feel the way that it did. If Owner gets to play his game, I think we see that there is just not a lot that can be done. I like the red side because I feel like there might be a lot of value for Xiu in particular to get a counter pick.
I wonder what sort of like 1-2 punch they're going to be looking for. Something mid-jungle has been more successful for them today than anything else, but trying to draft for an aiming bottom lane without the Lucian there, I think is probably not the way to go. But there's no Ahri, for example. That's one of those picks. I think Annie's going to be banned on blue side again. T1's not going to let them have it. I wonder what sort of strategy D+ has prepared, because I think this is not going to be a standard setup here in the first phase if they're picking red side.
Yeah, a second round Lissandra ban was something that T1 pulled out to prevent Showmaker from having playmaking ability. What else? I think Jhin Bard. Jhin Bard's still something that is still up, going to be prioritized by both squads. So big questions here. Chronicler, you are a D+ man.
I'm a believer. In
You are
game
out
5.
of games.
In game 5.
Out of games to give.
Game 5 exclusively. I'm not going to make any statements as to whether I believe in anything beyond the game 5. But I think that thus far, we're kind of getting a retread of the first series we had between these two teams as well that also went to 5. I expect DK to have a great plan here in the 4th game on red side to be able to use that to kind of get T1 off their tempo. But T1 will have side selection going into that game 5 if it does come to fruition.
My last thing is the thing I said at the very beginning of this desk. Got to keep your mental straight. Do not get boomed after a tough loss. Rookie players like Xiu, a big test for them right now going into their final game potentially. If they lose here, they don't go to Worlds.
Yeah, we've talked about the stakes before in terms of consistency, in terms of streaks heading to Worlds for both of these organizations, specifically for some of the players haven't missed out on Worlds. Well, one of these teams won't be continuing on, and D+ Kia have their backs against the wall. No more losses to give. T1 trying to make that step closer towards the LCK championship. Let's see how things unfold in game number 4.